praise. I'm from Kansas City, that's loud pack at the Chiefs game. Presidential like Harry S, but a team member like Sat Page. I love my city. When you come and visit, better stop at Gates for that mixed place. T-Mobile sitting courtside, you know we popping out for them big games. Super Bowl, we got 2 of those. That's back to back. We the town topic. And all red, we at Arrowhead. Got me tailgating these red bottoms. On 71 heading northbound. It's KCI on that bag land. Highlighted, this is Kansas City. We gon' show the world where that bag at.
My name is Chris Goode. I am the very grateful founder, owner, operator of Ruby Jeans Juicery.
Where is that located?
So Ruby Jeans Juicery is located at, the location we're in now is at 30th and Truce. It's actually Ruby Jeans Kitchen and Juicery. We have a location inside of Whole Foods in Brookside, a store-in-store concept. We also have a satellite location inside of CPKC Stadium that goes on during the Kansas City Current soccer season. And then we also have another store concept inside of a store called Price Cutter in Springfield, Missouri. And then we're in wholesale across locations in Whole Foods as far as Bozeman, Montana, different coffee shops in Kansas City, a lot of different outfits. We have smart, healthy vending machines inside of Children's Mercy Hospital and other outlets.
And for those who may not know, how did this become just an idea into all of the businesses that you run?
From idea to fruition, you know, it'll be 10 years that we've been in business here, July 25th. You know, from idea to fruition, I would say that I took this longing for my grandma, just missing my grandma, wanting her to still be here. You know, I wish I could still watch her sitting in her chair, watching Wheel of Fortune, trying to guess the different games, telling us she's gonna whoop that pillow, meaning she's gonna whoop us. You know, wish I could hug her, embrace her, taste her food, hear her laugh, see her smirk. So it went from me longing for my grandma, seeing her, you know, leave us at age 61 from type 2 diabetes, and to me becoming a man and, you know, getting introduced to fresh juice by way of friends in Los Angeles. I gotta say, you know, my heart is with Los Angeles during this interview because it took me back as soon as I said it, but the introduction for me and fresh juice happened there, and so it holds a special place in my heart. But from my grandma to being introduced to, you know, this beautiful product in Los Angeles in my 20s, and knowing and understanding and learning the healing effects of fresh juice, the concentrated nutrients in fresh juice and the power that it possessed, it made me channel back to my grandmother and wishing that she, you know, had this knowledge or awareness around fresh juice, but just a healthier lifestyle, more movement, more activity, more water, less fried food, less sodium, smaller portions. So all of that channeled back to me just missing my grandma, and I decided to do something about it. I wanted to create something that was meaningful, that, you know, was more than just about making money. You know, it's something that I could fight for and put my all into and nourish people through, and still as a byproduct find a way to be rewarded and be able to take care of my own family, and just expose our city, you know, to a different opportunity and products. You know, placing this location in 30th and Truce was by the grace of God. You know, I went to daycare across the street when I was a kid. It was St. Vincent's back then. It's now Operation Breakthrough. So I don't know. I can keep going on and on and on, but
You're good. I was just because I went to St. Vincent's. So. But I love the way you answered that question because it actually literally fell in line with other lines of questions that I had. Specifically, if you can elaborate on it's one thing to take the personal journey of juicing, but besides your grandma, if you feel comfortable, elaborate on what made you decide to bring that to this community specifically.
Yeah, my grandmother is the impetus behind the brand, and just wishing she had this knowledge because it's very, very simplistic. If like we always see that, or we hear people say, if you know, and this is something that I wish she knew about, but she didn't. And so I hold her in high regard for why I do this, but really her face on our logo, in essence, it really starts to disappear in my mind, and a mirror is formed, and I want people that look just like her to be able to see themselves through it in a gentle way, because the lady that was there had no space to judge anybody based on what they eat or don't eat, because she didn't know. And so it's this very sensitive approach to say, hey, you don't have to be perfect or have to already know about this, but just be open to hearing why we do this, and then, Lord willing, it sparks a desire in you to want to make a small incremental change, and that could be something as simple as drinking more water, or replacing your Dr. Pepper or whatever soda you drink, or pop you drink, with something that's real, something that's fresh, something that's vibrant, something that's alive. And so it's like I know that in this room right now, every single one of us has a Ruby Genie. All of us. We all do. And we don't all even look alike, but we all have a Ruby Genie. We all have somebody that left us too soon, or will leave us too soon, based on the fact that their lifestyle choices didn't beget longevity. And so by the grace of God, it's my life's calling to be able to wake up every single day to fight for something that only creates longevity for more people.
And I read that you did start the juicing journey from the friends in Los Angeles. What about Kansas City? I read you had an early connection here, but what made you definitively say, this is where I need to be?
And Kansas City is home. So I was living in Los Angeles when I really said, you know what? This is something I gotta take home. Because in LA, juice bars and healthy offerings are like barbecue restaurants and check cashing places here. That's how they have an abundance of healthy food offerings. It's just the norm there. And so I knew jumping out into this, being able to establish it in a place where I'm not from would have been unlikely. And so I came home, I quit my job, I put everything in it, and I wanted to bring something that I knew had never been done in Kansas City in this way, by somebody that shared my hue, with my passion and my sympathy towards our circumstances and our lack of knowledge around this very simple and hidden in plain sight offering. We always hear, eat your fruits and vegetables. But what about if you can make it like juicy? Like, what if you can make it like fun? Like, just blend it up a little bit, do just a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and it makes it easier, and you can actually get more of it at once. That's a secret hidden in plain sight. And so Kansas City, it's it's a beautiful place. It's a beautiful place with challenges, with opportunities, with beautiful people, with hardworking people, with very passionate people, with many people that are overlooked. And I know that health is this moving target for Black people, namely, and I wanted to be able to create something that allowed the target to slow down. And then when it slowed down for Black people, and we have more Black people drinking juice, getting excited about drinking smoothies, eating more salads, eating more foods that are alive and is vibrant and setting, that we wouldn't do and commit the same atrocities that have been committed against us as a people. We wouldn't say, oh, this is only for us. We would keep our arms and our hearts open for everybody, just in the way that Jesus would command. So Kansas City is home. It's the place that my grandmother helped raise me. I watched my mother, my father, my siblings, my aunts, my uncles labor. My grandma worked in a linen factory 2 blocks from here. You know, this place that we sit in right now was the day-old bread store. And by the grace of God, I'm sitting here as the owner of the first ever healthy business that ever existed on the east side of Kansas City in the history of Kansas City. And so Kansas City, God allowed it to choose me when I breathed for the first time at Truman Hospital. And so to be able to be right down the street from there and to be here and doing this and talking about this, you know, God said so.
And speaking of the availability of fresh fruits and vegetables, I did read that you are working on a community garden, or have one already. So could you?
Who told you that?
You did, actually. I did my research on our highlights. So, what inspired you to do? Because you could have just opened the business and said, "Hey, my part is finished." What inspired the garden portion of it?
Good question. So the garden, you know, Ruby Jean's garden. Again, you know, I believe in Jesus deeply, and not because somebody told me I should, or for any other reason than a personal relationship and his presence and his guidance, his continual guidance. Even when I can't see or hear him, I know he's there. And this garden came about in a very honest way that I couldn't attribute it to anything but Christ. A buddy of mine, he called me one day. He's like, "Man, I think I could help you save some money." And I'm like, "Tell me more." And so he goes on to say, like, he's a master gardener, and he's always giving me stuff out of his home garden. And he's like, "Man, we can grow this. We can grow your beets. We can grow some sweet potatoes. We can grow onions." And I'm like, "Okay, you know, like, I hear you." But I've tried to do a lot with local gardens and farmers, and truth be told, it's very difficult. Very well intentioned, but logistically, I'm trying to grow something bigger than what I can see and can even conceptualize. And so when you start to add these constraints in it, even though they're well-intentioned constraints, it still stifles the growth of a small business. He's like, "All right, I understand that." And he starts naming these places still. And he's like, "What about this place?" And he lands on this place that I wasn't familiar with, that it was a garden at some point. And it was never this bountiful experience just spilling over with produce, but I knew that, you know, it was well-intentioned at some point, and, you know, there was an effort to stand up a community garden. And I'm like, "Yeah, I know about it. What happened to it? What's up?" He's like, "Have you seen it?" I'm like, "No." So I drive by it, and what I saw, just like, it dang near took my breath away. As what I had known it to be, it was completely different. I just hadn't been by it. And I don't know, maybe it was a year and a half since I had been there. And you know, it was bleak. The fence was falling over. Weeds were taller than me. The hoop house was disheveled and falling over. It was trash everywhere. You know, "Do not enter trespassing" signs. It was like, what happened here? And so I called him back, like, what happened? He's like, "I don't know." So I reached out to the guy that I knew was in charge of it. And I asked him, "Well, you know, what's going on?" And I find out he's since moved out of the country. And, you know, I don't think it was anybody in his wake to pick up that burden, to pick up that, you know, to take that handoff. And so it fell into disrepair. And immediately I knew it was it was God talking to me. I knew it because here I am at 29th and Wabash, and my grandma's house is at 39th and Wabash. And then this part is, when I say this part, it's like I still have a hard time wrapping my head around it, because I talk to a lot of kids, and I mean, ton of kids, and I mean a lot of kids, and I would tell them the story of my grandmother and why I started Ruby Jean's Juicery, and sometimes they'd just be looking at me like, what, you know, like glazed over. And so at some point, God put it on my heart to say, you know what? You should write a children's book. To write this story in a more effective manner for their scale, up to like fourth graders or so. And so in 2019, I sat down and I wrote a children's book. And I knew what I wanted to call it, and the words just poured out of my heart. I decided to call it Ruby Jean's Garden. And so I write Ruby Jean's Garden, and where in reality my grandmother didn't make it out of the hospital, in the book, she meets a nurse in the hospital that reinforms her lifestyle. She meets a nurse that says, hey, this is what we need you to do. This is how you have to move more. This is what you need to eat more of. Is calling down, making orders for her. My grandma is looking at it like, what is this? Eating the leafy greens, frowning, you know, saying, oh, this needs some seasoning salt. Calling down to the hospital chef saying like, you need to do this or that. Begrudgingly, my grandmother adopts this. In the book, she comes home. She gets home, she gets a second chance. She goes straight to the pantry. You see her in the book throwing out all the bad stuff. And she starts cooking according to the new shopping list that the nurse gave her, making these same delicious foods in a healthy way. I'm in the book like, man, Grandma, I didn't know healthy food could be this delicious. Wow. My grandma takes it a step further. And this is idealistic. This did not happen. This is in 2019. I sat down and I wrote this, and the words just poured out of me. And I had the book end with my grandmother planting a free community garden on the lot next to her home at 39th and Wabash. And this is in 2019. So then fast forward, a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago, I get this call, and we end up purchasing this piece of land that's 10 blocks to the north of where I wrote this in this book. And it took me a long time to find the right illustrator to get it out. I finally published it, and the publishing of the children's book would align with the acquisition of the actual garden itself. And so, you know, it's things like that that, you know, no one could ever like make me question my faith, because, you know, I only think that we can manifest what God breathed life into first. And he breathed life in it, and I'm just grateful that he did so through me. So Ruby Jean's Garden, I mean, you know, the impetus of even me sitting here having this conversation came from that place. And, you know, it's just, I know it's blessed. I know it's holy ground already. We haven't put one seed in the ground, and it's a magnet. And so, yeah, we'll be growing fruits and vegetables from Ruby Jean's Garden under Ruby Jean's Foundation, and giving it away, asking for sweat equity, and asking the community to increase their knowledge set around growing their own food and understanding the power in growing their own food and giving it out freely with no cost other than sweat equity and attention and just time. So
I saw that you had written a quote somewhere, and I'd like you to elaborate on it.
Which one?
It's 4 words. They shouldn't, we should. What does that mean?
They shouldn't, we should. Man, being black, it comes with an instant level of toil, like an instant. The moment you breathe, there's toil attached to your existence. And oftentimes, that honest weight that we bear, it needs an outlet. And we start to point at what somebody else should do because we've been carrying this. And so they should, it's jacked up that it's trash over there. And so they should pick that trash up, and they should help that lady. Like they should fix this thing. They should put something over there for that. They should, and we looking around and we talking about they, and we start to identify with they, and we pointing at they, and all the while they doesn't exist. And they don't care. And so when we take away the ability to point, it brings the mirror back. And so if they shouldn't do it because they don't exist, I guess it's on us. So we should.
So with that, because I noticed that you involve yourself in a lot of things that specifically advocate for our community, have you ever thought about like a future in policy or politics here in Kansas City?
Have I ever thought about a future in politics? Yes. You want me to elaborate?
Please.
Yes, I have. I've thought about a future in politics. I got to serve as a Kansas City, Missouri Parks and Rec Commissioner. And sitting on the Parks and Rec board in a place like Kansas City, it lends itself to quite a bit of access and awareness. And the way I arrived at such a position, was because of the heart I've shown to try and resurrect downtrodden spaces and make them beautiful and more valuable and more useful for Black people, and extending from there to all people. And I think that sometimes in this digital age we live in, intention starts to get cheapened because you don't know who's actually really, really trying to move the needle, like with everything they are. And so if you are articulate, got all your teeth, smile real good, talk real good and stuff, you can start to be confused for someone that just wants attention but doesn't really want change. And so when you mistakenly provide access to somebody that actually could care less about that attention and only cares about the change, you create revelation. And in the revelations that I was able to be exposed to in a quasi-political role, it turned me off. It made me realize that my voice is a free voice. My voice is not to be bound by any political body. And this work that God put in front of me does not have to be channeled through team system. And so while I once had political aspirations, in present day I don't, because I think that somebody told me that there are legislators and there are agitators. And he looked at me and he said, "You, my friend, you're an agitator." And so I now prefer to have allyship with genuine legislators, because they do exist. But I just want to be free. I just want to be free, and I want us to be free. And I want us to be safe. I want us to be well. I want us to be healthy. I want us to smile. I don't want us to be bound. I don't want us to struggle. And I believe that my role is on the outside for now. Now, if money becomes no issue, and I don't have to ask anybody to donate to a campaign, or, and I can really go after progress without being beholden, my sentiment may change, but money's still an issue.
Gonna do a little temperature check here as we are Highlight KC. It is Sunday at Arrowhead, and there are two teams on the field. What team are you rooting for?
Oh man, I mean, it goes without saying, I hope the Chiefs win another Super Bowl. I think the impact on the general population of Kansas City's disposition is very important to me, above and beyond all. I want the city to be happy. I love sports, I play sports, but my investment is in the happiness that it yields for the majority of Kansas City, and including myself. I want them to win. I want them to win deeply, but it's just because of the greater good of Kansas City, Missouri.
Now, because we're in Kansas City, we typically ask what is people's favorite barbecue spot, and we don't let them back out of that question. However, we don't want to undo all of the hard work that you did.
No, it's all good.
You comfortable with that question? Okay, so we're going to go ahead and ask.
Yeah.
And it has to be finite. There's no this.
No, I already know.
Best barbecue in Kansas City.
So I'm a pescatarian. And best barbecue in Kansas City for many people is controversial. For me, it's not. Gates. And again, I'm a pescatarian, so take my opinion with a grain of salt. But I'm a very loyal person, and I believe that when you have a black-owned business that can see, we're about to hit 10 years, and I can't even tell you how hard I can't even tell you how hard it is to even say that. And to think that you've got this business that's been in, you have to fact check it because time is still going, but 60 to 70 years or something like that. Man, how could I? There's no other option. Like it's Gates, and I love that family. I love the blueprint that they laid for somebody like me, even through a much different offering. They own their real estate. They operate and function as a close-knit group, as a family. They make family decisions, and it's perpetuating itself through generations. And so I know my answers are just not just like, oh, the ribs and this. It's deeper than that for me, you know. It's deeper than that. That's a blueprint that the country should celebrate. That's a Netflix documentary that needs to be captured, you know. So yeah, Gates. It's Gates on mine.
Speaking of legacy, as you are a father, what is the legacy or most important thing about your choices as a man and business owner that you feel are important to impart upon them?
Man, 2 boys, you know, young boys, and I think the thing that I want them to know is that you don't have to sacrifice purpose for profit. You just don't. That is a choice, and it's the norm. Where profit is always over purpose, way more times than not. And I want them to know, as a part of this legacy, that that's not who we are. If it's not uplifting, if it's not genuine, if it's not nourishing, if it's not abundant, if it doesn't please God, then it likely is not something that you should be trying to seek profit from as a part of this legacy.
Ask if there's one thing that you could make better about the city, which you've named several, and I've read that you have a couple of things, but if you just want to share like one thing to kind of encourage the audience, like as a collective, to do better.
I could name a whole lot of things right here. So one of the focuses of Ruby Jeans Foundation, we adopted the first ever bus stop in Kansas City's history. It's just to the south at 31st Street. It's a bus stop hub, and it's a few years ago now. I always try to do something that's outside of self for my birthday, because that's what like really fills me up. Like that's what like the best gift to me is to give. And so we did this, and we clean it up and down Truce, which I do all the time. And we get to the bus stop, and man, it was bad. It was bad. And I'm looking at our people, and they're just coming and going, and seemingly are oblivious to the level of filth at their feet. And it just struck something in me, and we spent the rest of the time that day cleaning up the bus stop, and it triggered something. And I'm like, well, this is again the they shouldn't, we should. But there's a organization that's slated, that's tasked with maintaining our bus stops, that are funded to maintain the bus stops, that should, for all intents and purposes, maintain the bus stops. But when there's this disconnect between what, I know this is longer than what you're probably looking for, but it's hard. But when there's this disconnect between what somebody should be doing and what they actually can do, because of the just sheer amount of waste that hits these bus stops, then it's like, okay, well, we should. And so I said, let's reach out to the bus company, KCATA, and let's ask, how could we adopt this bus stop? And what I would find out is that nobody had ever asked that question before, ever. And so we ended up adopting the first bus stop in Kansas City, and there are roughly 2,000 bus stops. We have only seen 21 bus stops adopted, and to me, it's such a low-hanging piece of fruit to be able to make impact, because Kansas City is not Washington, D.C. or Chicago, where public transit is like the main source of movement, like a New York City. We drive cars. And so if you're at a bus stop, just like my family used this very bus stop when I was a kid, it's because more times than not in Kansas City, because you have to be. because there's some vulnerability present, and a lot of it appears at bus stops, and you can see it in the filth that's allowed to be just strewn amongst the feet of our people. And so my ask to improve things incrementally in a low-hanging piece, where if a bunch of us did a little bit, is for your organization, your business, your family to adopt a bus stop. Adopt the one at the end of your street. Reach out to KCATA and adopt a bus stop. It's my goal before I leave this place that all 2,000 plus bus stops are adopted and cared for. And that decrease in filth for our most vulnerable population is an elevation in their value subconsciously. And that elevation in value in their subconscious, who knows where to go. So drinking color means drink something that is alive. Drink something that is vibrant. But for real though, because Kool-Aid was colorful. But drinking color for real. And it's color that's natural, that God put here. Beets is so rich and beautiful in color, and pineapple is golden hue, and it's real. It's not, there's no paint on it. There's nothing weird. Purple cabbage, it's crazy. The color is just insane. And so if you can drink in real color, oh man, you think about what it's gonna do to the inside of your being. And then it's just gonna come back out in your essence, in your faith, in your everything. And so drinking color, just like, got it from Living Color, you know, in Living Color, it was kind of a play on that, but I liked it because the colors, I walked in juice bars all across the country and still do, and it'll be like all gray and beige and like, you know, like these real muted colors. And to me, like, fruits and vegetables are vibrant, they're alive. It's like, boom, wow, these big pops of color. And man, we can drink it, so we should. And this is Ruby Jeans. I'm Chris Goode. I'm grateful to be on Highlight KC. What an honor. I don't take it for granted. You know, today, like, words have lost their umph. You know, words are, you can just pop in and say, tell me this, and it'll just spit out all these words. And so any chance I get to use the words that God put in me, I'm grateful for it. I'm grateful for this opportunity. I pray this platform reaches the masses and it goes to the highest of highs. And we need solid sound platforms to lift our stories, to lift our voices, so we can be heard and we can move the needle. Yeah, so Ruby Jeans Juicery, this is our no sweat. This is watermelon, apple, lime. Very, very hydrating, and it's really good. Give it a try. Come by, pull up, get some juice. You know, I know a lot of people hear about us, and I get a lot of congratulations, but you'll be surprised. Some days it's kind of slow. So we would love to see you. We would love to embrace you. Come in, feel the essence of my grandmother, and support something that's real.